Okay. This is part of the Systems of Abuse series. You can find the playlist here on my Facebook page. You can also find it on YouTube at youtube.com/Sarah McDugal. But right now, I want to share some information that was actually developed by Psalm 82 Initiative. I'm tagging that in the description of this video. Definitely check them out. If you are not already following Psalm 82 Initiative, you are missing out on some fantastic, biblical, solid, gospel-oriented content and education about safety and the character of God and how to discern abusive, toxic relationships and interactions. So there are, according to Psalm 82 Initiative, there are 4 different types of tools that an abuser uses. This does not matter if they are the outgoing, gregarious, super charming, overt, in-your-face type, the loudest guy in the room type, or if they are the super quiet, apparently shy or laid back or covert, difficult to read type. Either one, doesn't matter. And this is where a lot of times we get hung up because we are not hung up. Hung up is probably not the right term. We get confused because we expect people to be a certain type of personality if they are abusive. Thing is, all different types of personalities can choose to have abusive patterns. What we look for is not the event, not the personality type, but the actual pattern itself. The system of entitlement, the system of power over, the system of belief, the core mindset that says, I have the right to dominate you and tell you how to live your life and to consume you. So someone who is not okay with you following your own conscience, someone who is not okay with you doing what you believe is right, someone who believes that they need to explain God to you, and isn't willing to make it a dialogue or a conversation. Those are all red flags. But here, let's go through the 4 tools that every abuser uses. 1 is isolation. An abusive person is going to try to, oftentimes very covertly and insidiously, turn you against your friends, against the people who support you, or try to make themselves more important than other people in your life. It's you and them against the world, and if you don't do things the way they want, if you don't let them be the number one dominant person on your horizon all the time, they get clingy or needy or grumpy or pouty or sulky, and it's because they are attempting to isolate you, turning your friends against you, triangulating you against your family, participating in things that break down your friendships with other great people, healthy, good people, other supportive network. People who tear that down and isolate you in any way, that is a sign of an abusive tool. Number 2, so this isolation is often one of the first, most obvious, most used tools. Number 2, deflection. And this is where all the responsibility bounces off of me onto something else, someone else, back to you, back to anyone else. So if you bring up an issue and they sidestep it and bring up something you've done, if you ask for communication and they just refuse to participate in communication and they want to deflect responsibility for themselves, if they say that you are responsible for choices or actions that they have made, that is deflection. So that's where all the bad stuff slides off of me and onto you or someone else. Number 3, manipulation. This is kind of the inversion of deflection in some ways. It's where all the good stuff comes to me instead of all the bad stuff sliding off to you. They're bookends to each other. But manipulation is where someone tries to, instead of being straightforward and communicating needs or saying what they want and sticking to it, or communicating a preference clearly and being consistent with that, someone is always changing the goalposts, always making you feel guilty. Always is probably an overgeneralization, but where there is a trend or a pattern of someone making you feel guilty, making you feel responsible for things that they have done, manipulating circumstances or conversations to avoid open communication, to avoid clear honesty. Any of these things are an abusive tool. So we have isolation, we have deflection, we have manipulation, and then fourth and last, we have intimidation. Someone who is going to make you pay for a mistake. Someone who refuses to accept consequences for things that they have done, and they decide that they're angry with you. They're going to kind of emotionally bully you into doing what they want. They will intimidate in some way by either covertly, by pouting and sulking and making you feel that you shouldn't set boundaries, or they're going to intimidate you aggressively and overtly by making you feel that you are out of line, or that you should be scared if you don't do what they want, and that you are less than them. So someone who refuses to be accountable and responds to accountability by asserting dominance or trying to make you smaller than them in some way is intimidating you, is using intimidation as a manipulation tactic. So, an abuse tactic. So, isolation, deflection, manipulation, intimidation. Those 4 things. Any personality, any type of interaction, whether, it's like dating or marriage, or sometimes a parent-child relationship, sometimes a workplace relationship, whether it's overt or covert, all 4 of these things are types of abuse tools, and they are indicators of toxic, dangerous patterns, these 4 things. It's super simple. It's easier to keep in mind than all the possible signs of domestic violence. And if you are dealing with someone who has this kind of situation, this kind of pattern rather, this kind of system going on, definitely seek help. Seek some input, ask for clarity, whether you are calling the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is, by the way, the number is in the description of this video in case you need it, or if you are seeking coaching or talking to someone who understands abuse, please definitely seek safety, seek help, seek clarity to understand what's going on in your world a little better. I've put a link to a free list of my most recommended books for recovery from abuse and for understanding this kind of stuff in the description of this video. There are like 300 now videos for free on youtube.com/Sarah McDugal, and there's all kinds of free downloads and stuff and ebooks available on my website, www.wilderness2wild.com. Scroll down, check it out, drop me a comment here, send me a message, and in the meantime, have a really wonderful day wherever you are.